Welcome back to The Rancher's Voice, the podcast where the heart of agriculture meets the pulse of today's industry. From policy changes to leadership stories and the Western lifestyle, The Rancher's Voice dives into the stories that matter most to ag producers. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Rancher's Voice. I am your host, Ellie Brighton, and with me today is my co-host, Raylee Honeycutt.
Hello, everyone, and we are excited to have with us today Jillien Streit, the new appointed and confirmed director of the Montana Department of Agriculture. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, ladies. This is really exciting for me. I've never done a podcast before, so super excited to yet again experience something new.
Yeah, well, we are excited to have you, and we do a podcast every week, so whenever you have anything to talk about, feel free to give us a call, and we will be more than happy to have you hop on the podcast.
Yeah. So today we're planning to discuss your role as at the department and some news, your recent trip to Peru, and that sort of thing. Would you want to tell us a little bit about your role as director, kind of to kick everything off?
Yeah, so I was asked from a couple of the different ag organizations to put my name in the hat for Director of Agriculture, of which I thought that there was no chance that I would have that opportunity. So then when I got the phone call from the governor, I was elated. It's definitely something that has interested me for a while, just the job itself, being able to go out and tell the story and promote Montana agriculture is something that I've found a lot of success in my career thus far. And so, and then just understanding pretty personally through different business ventures, the different things that the department does and why it's important to the growers across the state of Montana, and being able to come in with that perspective and be like, these are great things. Maybe some of these things are low-hanging fruit that we could work on, and maybe we could help our producers by, advancing this in the future. And so, yeah, really excited to work with the amazing team and staff that I have at the Department of Ag. There's about 120 full-time, and then during the summer seasons, we get up to about 140. And so, yeah, we work across the entire state in a lot of different programs. And we offer a lot of services. We offer a lot of promotion, and yeah, just really excited to be at the helm and work with a fabulous crew.
Awesome. Well, we are excited to have you at the department as well. You are no stranger to Montana agriculture. You were very heavily involved, in membership organizations prior to becoming director. We kind of worked always adjacent to one another, you kind of being in the pulse crop world and us over here in the cattle world. But give our listeners a little bit of background about the, where you came from, the business you and your husband built, and kind of how you ended up at the Department of Agriculture.
Yeah, so my parents actually weren't on farm and ranch. They were one generation removed. My dad came from a dairy farm in Kansas, and my mom came from a cattle operation in the Sweetgrass Hills, north of Chester, Montana. And we actually ran a steakhouse. And so even though I might be known as the Pulse Queen by a lot of people, meat and potatoes is still my favorite foods for sure. And so growing up in an agricultural community where ag was the number one driving force for our economy, and kind of feeling some of the ebbs and flows, especially running a secondary. I would say a lot of the businesses in small towns are secondary to agriculture. They are a service provided to ag. Even the restaurants, that's a service provided to the individuals living in that community. And when agriculture struggles, those secondary businesses also struggle. And so I got to experience that firsthand growing up, and it wasn't easy, and it was pretty sad. I had the opportunity / I fell in love with my soulmate, Tyler Streit, who is a farmer from north central Montana. Even though I was trying not to fall in love with a farm kid, it was not the goal. I had joined the Army. I was leaving. I was with the ROTC program at the University of Montana. Got to do some really fun things, basic training. I got to go through airborne school. I was well on my way to something different. And got the opportunity. His name's Cooper. He's 17 years old. He came along kind of unexpectedly, and I moved back to the farm. And that's kind of the story of how I got into agriculture. It was a choice of maybe I could be upset about this, and maybe I could be resentful, or I could just embrace it and love it and dive head first in. And so that's what I did. And the egg community was amazing. They saw that not only did they see that I had passion and I had a lot of other things that I could offer them, they offered me so much, so many opportunities in so many different directions. I am forever thankful for the egg community. Um, they were happy to have me hop on boards. They were more than happy to help me to create the voice that I now have when it comes to representing them on in the community, in the state, and in the nation, and now on the global side of things. I love telling the story of agriculture. I think it's the most beautiful, just real, authentic uh, way that a person can grow up. And the family aspect of it is my number one. When people ask me what I do, I say, well, I'm a farm mom and I'm a farm wife. I'm not a farmer, but I get to really have that outside perspective with that internal force that's driving me. And so, yeah, we started a few different businesses. My husband is an avid entrepreneur, I will say. And so one of those businesses, most notably, was Strix Egg. It was a pulse processing facility in north central Montana that we started with partners Patrick and Whitney Wicks in 2014. And so that's where the Strix name comes. It's the STR from street and the ICKS from Wicks. So that's Strix.
I always wondered that, so that's perfect.
Yeah, and so that's how that name came about. And we started the business at a great time for pulses. They were really starting to take off. People were looking for alternative income streams. We were dealing with some drought issues, and we were looking for ways to be able to make more money off of the same acreage that we were, farming at that point in time. And pulses was a fairly easy transition for a lot of people, and so it demanded another marketplace. And we were able to step in at the right time, in the right place, and create that marketplace. Through the grace of God and a lot of hard work, we were able to build that very rapidly to the point where we had to take on external partners, which is a great thing when your business is growing so fast that you can't keep up with it. It's challenging to be able to hand those things off or allow some of the control to go away. But at the same time, I view it as like your kids. You want to see them grow, you want to see them expand, and you want to put them first so that they can keep doing the things that they're doing. Fast forward to 2024, the business had grown so big, and we were such a small part of it at that point in time that it was pretty easy to sell off the shares that we had remaining, so it could continue to grow and continue to expand, and that we could look at other ventures and other things that we needed to focus on at that point in time, some family things, and so then 2020, end of 2024 rolls around, and I get the phone call, and everyone's wondering what I'm up to, and I'm like, kind of felt like I was gonna retire, maybe. No, not
You're
really.
way too young to retire.
Relax, yeah. No, and I just kind of joke around about that. I was definitely eager to look for something that I could utilize the strengths that I had built, and so then this came along, and I'm really excited to be here and to use my strengths for all of agriculture now.
Well, as an egg entrepreneur, you were on the other side of working with the state government. So was there any time within your experience growing Strix eggs that you were like, if only this was easier or if only this red tape was gone? And have you been able to maybe incorporate some of those things as you've started into your new role?
Yes, definitely. There's been times where it's like I don't understand why we have to do this. I don't understand what the purpose of this is when we're just trying to get from point A to point B, and you're making us go 1, 2, 3, 7, 9, 12 in between, And so some of that is what we're working on at the department. Is we're going to start doing some different promotions where we talk about the services that we provide, why we provide those services on the regulatory side, how they benefit the producer, and what the importance of them are. Because what I found in my experience is that 1, 2, 3, 17, 9B all mattered in some way, shape, or form, and usually down the road. What I found with the department is that if I had those questions and I asked those questions, and I asked a lot of questions, they were very willing to help and explain. And I think what happens is that people get frustrated with all of the things between A and B, and then they throw their hands up and they say it's too hard, or it's too complicated, or it's too complex. I don't understand. And so I feel like our role is to help them to understand why. At the department, what I'm learning is that there's a lot of times that the department doesn't have any control over those things. That's legislature, or it's something that has, it's a law that has been created. And what they have to do is protect the people who are registering for these things or trying to start this from being outside of the law. So I think that we can do a better job. I think that the department has done a fabulous job with the actual regulations of everything. I think that they have everything buttoned down very well that way, but I think we can do a better job explaining the purpose of why. And I think knowing the why helps people to get from A to B and not give up.
I would say we would agree with that. And that's something
Yeah.
that we hear from our producers as well, is just not understanding why processes exist. And so knowing they're important, like you said, but not knowing why. So it's cool that you, as a producer from, before and now, seeing both sides of it. I mean,
Yeah.
you're in the perfect position for that.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, and other things. I mean, understanding the dynamics of agriculture, where we have a lot of producers that are very savvy technology wise, and getting in and registering online and going through that application process is lickety split. They can do it very quickly. But then we still have a lot of producers that we need to service that it's a slower, it's not slower. If they could have the paper form and they can do it the way that they've done it and have always done it, they will be able to do that very well. And so it's a delicate balance of, finding where we can push the envelope on technology and implementing new ways and new approaches, but also having that common courtesy to the fact that people have been doing these things for 30 years and it is systematic at this point in time. And we have to still provide those options as well.
I think we struggle with that as well, from kind of moving into the electronic world, but also needing the paper world as well. So you mentioned that the agency does have a regulatory component to it, but it also has like a marketing component to it. And you just returned from a trade mission. And so tell us a little bit about that trade mission and where'd you go and what'd you guys do?
Yeah, so very excited to be working on the marketing side. That was definitely a passion point of mine prior to taking this position. And so I've been on 2 trade missions thus far. My first trade mission was with FAS. It was a RAP mission to Panama, and that one was fabulous. The one Will
you explain to our listeners what FAS is?
Okay, Foreign Egg Services. So it's the national group that promotes egg products in all of the marketplaces across the globe. And so they have different programming that we utilize for funds. So it's not paid for from the Montana taxpayer dollar. There's maybe a small amount that comes from our budget, but most of these trade missions that I get to attend have funding that comes from the federal government through the Foreign Egg Service. So I'm going to take advantage of as many of those as I possibly can. And so with that, I went to a mission in Panama, which was great. Made a lot of wonderful contacts there. And then the last one I just came back was from Peru. But we doubled up and we coupled that and we touched base back in Panama on our way back through. So we got to do kind of a double touch. But the Peru mission was also with the Foreign Egg Services. There was 60 United States businesses. There were 2 businesses from the state of Montana that paid for their own travel to go down. That was I&D Hemp and Commercial Links were the 2 Montana businesses that were paid for their own representation to be down there. We got to. It was a amazing experience for me, coming from the industry that I had worked in prior at Strix. We had with our partners, the Redwood Group, we had established a branded bag called the Everline bag of lentils. And so getting to go down to Peru and getting to see those Everline lentils being processed in a processing facility there in the heart of the country, getting to see them go into the bags that go onto their grocery store shelves was like the culmination of the full process for me. And so that was really amazing. Yeah. So that was part of it. We got to make a lot of connections down there on the Pulse side, but we also got to visit with a couple of different companies when it came to genetics. Beef genetics is something that they're very interested in from the state of Montana. The I&D hemp group that was down there had we helped to connect them with some fiber companies while we were there. And so it was very successful in the amount of connections that we made throughout the government, learning more about their marketplace, what they desire in their marketplace. So in Peru, their food culture is very important to them. The Peruvians have long been agriculturalists, and they have like, I don't know, you talk to one person, it's 1,000 different varieties of potatoes, all the way up to 3,000 different varieties of potatoes, depending on who you talk to. And those are very important in all of their dishes. Their corn, their maize that they grow is very important in all of their dishes. And all of their dishes are comprised of multiple components. But beef is one of those components. And good beef is what they're looking for. But they're not looking for like a tenderloin or a ribeye. Maybe they'd put that into their dishes, but it's not going to be the showcase. And that's something that we have to, when we're looking at different marketplaces, wrap our minds around, that not every marketplace wants to have just that tenderloin or that ribeye or that big piece of meat be the showcase. Sometimes it's just actually the quality and the flavor of it and how it melds with the rest. So I think it's a great opportunity for Montana to maybe look at some of our awesome, amazing tasting secondary cuts, which pairs really well with, like I said, the Panama one that I was just in, because Panama is looking for the ribeye, the tenderloin, And so as we start to explore this South American marketplace more, this emerging, middle class that has great values and really wants to work with American products, I think there's a lot of opportunity to look at and showcase the things in each country and be able to develop a market for the entire beef, but across multiple countries possibly. And the same with the pulse crops. Panama is not a huge consumer of pulse crops, but the opportunity to re-export through Panama is huge. And so, I really enjoyed getting to go on these missions, getting to work with the Foreign Egg Service members that are in country, getting to learn about those countries and the opportunities that. And this is a term that I'm throwing around, and I'm thinking I'm hoping it's going to catch, but promoting Montana protein, period. So it doesn't matter if it's a pulse crop or beef, lamb, chicken, if it's our high quality eggs, if it's, whatever it is, our wheat, we have high quality Montana protein. And so really looking forward to helping to create the connection between Montana and South America for our high quality Montana proteins.
That's great.
Yeah.
I like that catchphrase.
I do too. Did you feel that idea of Montana protein in those areas was that people were receptive to that, I guess? Like, did you feel that was a important piece of your guys' conversation, and how did they receive it?
Absolutely. These countries are, like I said, they're developing that middle class. And as they're developing that middle class, they are starting to really look at what do you get the best bang for your buck, and health-wise, they're starting to concentrate on their health as well. So they're going away from a lot of like the refined sugars and those types of things, and they're looking for protein in their diet. Across the U.S., we found in a lot of the marketing that we did with the USA Dry Pea and Lentil Council and the different groups that I represented before, is protein is a selling point when it comes to health. People will see the benefits of adding protein to their diet when it comes to their health. And that is now spreading across South America. They are understanding the importance of protein in their diet, and they're understanding that not all protein is created equal. And so it was a huge catching point, especially in Panama with the distributors. Visiting with a large scale distributor, Di Carina, he visited about how they're starting to go into gyms and they're starting to sell different food items and snack food items into the gyms now, and how protein content is very important. Even when we were down in Peru at one of the facilities that we visited, it was a husband and wife that manage it. And the husband was like kind of into the protein, but as soon as I started talking about it, the wife, the mom, the person who's building the meals at home, the person who's looking out for the health and well-being of her children was like, yes, proteins, more proteins. That is absolutely what we need in our diet.
Well, not to kind of change gears, but I did want to, before we kind of get into too much time, chat with you about some of the programs that the department has around startups, new and beginning producers, those types of things. And I know that you and your husband have kind of started that transition to the next generation with your children. And it's a big challenge for producers in Montana. I think we're a bit behind the ball. You know, we did our producer profitability initiative listening sessions and succession planning, and the next generation was a really big topic in those conversations. And so, talk to us a little bit about maybe what you see are some of the opportunities for, we always say young producers, but I think we also have to forget or can't forget just beginning producers in general, people who are changing careers and maybe want to come into agriculture later in their life. Um, Tell us about what you're seeing from a perspective in Montana as well as from a national perspective.
I think it's the number one threat to agriculture at this point in time. And I don't take it with a light heart at all because it's not an easy problem to solve. And it's going to take some massive reform when it comes to uh, the way in which farms are financed and ranches are financed. We're going to have to think outside the box when it comes to people coming in and young producers having to take that huge fiscal step to be able to get into this. And also, we have to be, you know, real about the fact that there's not a lot of people in this world that are going to want to go millions of dollars into debt to work 80 hours a week to get yelled at by people for poisoning them because they don't understand where your food comes from and how it's produced. And so I don't take it lightly. And I don't think that, in the 4 years that I'm here, I'm going to be able to, be this changing point. But I'm definitely going to scream at the top of my lungs every time that I can that we need this change to happen. And I want to work with every single group in the ways that they can think of and be able to help with these transitions. I know that our family story is beautiful in the fact that my in-laws had the foresight at the age of 50 to be like, Tyler, I want you to start taking over these types of things. I want to give you some equity. I want to give you a ton of responsibility, and we want to make less and less decisions. And they did that pretty rapidly, and they allowed us to take a lot of risks. And we took those risks, and it was stressful. It was incredibly terrifying most of the time. Having to be at the helm of that, and so we are following in their footsteps and transitioning as much as we can over to the kids at 23, 19, 17. They know that we have a 5-10 year plan, and so succession planning at our place looks a lot different. It's we're succession planning so that by 55 we can retire and help. A lot of places don't have that, and it hasn't been built in for 2 generations. So I'm not gonna for 1 second say that, hey, we've got the answer and this is how you have to do it. Each individual operation is so different. I do think that we can, through different programs and things like that, possibly help from the federal level down to the state level with different mechanisms when it comes to financing, different ways that we can, think outside the box when it comes to getting capital into younger people's hands. It's really hard for an individual who's been on their farm and worked 80 hours a week until they're 70 years old to think, well, the easiest way to transition this to the next generation is just to give it to them. But then what did you work for all those years? And so we got to figure out how to help producers pay themselves for the work that they're doing while they're doing that work. Too many families, get to this point, and I guess what I'll say on this is not too many, but there's a lot of families out there that the last thing that they think about is the wage that they're going to pay the people who run the farm, the people who own the farm, the people that are on the land doing the work. That's the last thing that they pay. And I think we need to transition that mindset to that needs to be the first thing that you pay. I think those people need to be paid for the work that they're doing. They pay their taxes on it every single year and they put it away. And yeah, they can still, get the benefits of being on the farm, the housing, the gas, the groceries, all those types of things. But help them to put that away so that at the end of the day, the land that's been purchased can get handed down without having to be purchased again and again and again. But we have to start to, make it so that there's more margin so that these people can get paid. And it's not a thing that can just be solved overnight. It's a cultural shift. It's a systematics approach over some time. But I do think that the number one step forward is increasing margins and helping producers to understand that, hey, paying yourself is not taking away from the farm and ranch. It's adding to the farm and ranch in the future.
We like it.
Okay.
I mean, as Raylee mentioned, we talked about some of this in this transition planning with our producer profitability initiative, but hearing your perspective on it, I think is really interesting. And hearing kind of a different path for transitioning is also important so that people, I think, realize that there's lots of different ways to do it. And like you said, every operation's different. And so kind of doing what works for you, but also hearing, hey, this worked for one family, this worked for one family. How can we incorporate different pieces and transition the best way? So thank you for sharing that. As far as your role with Department of Ag, how do you see Department of Ag playing into this transition planning, succession planning process we're in right now, this generational transfer we're seeing?
I mean, we have some small programs when it comes to the beginning farmer program. And I'll say this, and it's a critique of the state and it's a critique of the nation. When you have to get in, you have a combine that costs, almost $1 million. And if you're going to get a used one, maybe it's $500,000. The loans and the size of them are nominal, to be honest. And so I think that the department can help in the way of, maybe you're going to get that loan, but also I think we need to help in the, how do you set this up? How do you move forward with it? What are the things you need to go through? And that's when we go back to that promotion through the regulatory side of it, is helping people understand why these things are there so that they don't have those big burdens of like maybe a regulatory thing that they messed up on or a tax thing that, they messed up on. And then they have this large expense later on. We can help in those aspects and in those ways. But by no means do I think that the Montana Department of Ag can come in and be the solution maker. We're a tool in your toolbox, but your toolbox is full of a lot of other things. And so we want to be, we want to be a hammer. We want to be a useful tool that you need, but we're not always going to be the tool you need for the problem that you're having either. And so understanding our role and taking that very seriously. And I think that the department will continue to try to tell that story of, hey, these loan amounts, while they are something, and not going to say that they're not that, they're not hugely impactful for being able to actually get started. And understanding that it is a limitation, but it is also something. So go out and apply for a loan with us, apply for a federal one, work with the banking, work with all these different things, trying to figure these things out. And it's not easy. I know, we've done it in a lot of different ways, and we had a huge head start. And so thank you, Leonard and Brenda, and the family and generations before that that built that. But it's not, I'm not going to say it's easy in any way, shape, or form, or that we're the solution. and that any of the programs that we do will be, the solution in the next 4 years. But going forward, working with the national groups and working with, in this state here, we can start to get that snowball moving.
Absolutely. And, we're working on it as well. And I think you're right. It's kind of a patchwork, and we're all going to have to, put the effort in the same direction at the same time to really move the needle. So, kind of as we conclude our interview, which hopefully your first podcast was not too hard. We weren't too hard on you. Um, what is kind of your vision for the next 4 years for the department? And if in 4 years or 3.5 now, when you kind of wrap up your tenure at the department, what do you want that legacy project or that one thing that you did to kind of for people to remember and what you've changed or maybe not changed at the department?
Wow, hot seats.
Yeah.
No, there's so many opportunities that are flying at me on the daily. And it's like, oh, I want to do that. Oh, I want to do that. Oh, I want to do that. And then like I got here now today and I'm like, I've been here for 6 months now and it's gone by so fast. So that's already like this, it's a good portion of the time that I'm going to be here. So it is like concentrating on focusing in, concentrating on those types of things. And, Governor Gianforte puts out there for us that he likes us to do an OGSM, which is kind of a 6 month to a year plan of how we're going to, a specific thing that we want to go after, the goal in which we're going to achieve, and then the way in which we're going to do that, and then assign that out to the people in which are and then have deliverables. So we actually went through that process last week, my first one, and so it's for the next year that we're looking at. And we came up with our goal, our objective for it is to strengthen and rebuild the rural agricultural economy in Montana. And we want to see the GDP increase by at least 3% annually throughout my tenure. And that's not just, the commodities being sold and the cattle being sold. It's the implement dealerships coming back into our communities. It's the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker mattering in small communities again. It's more restaurants being able to survive because more people are living in rural economies. It's supporting those types of things. And so while I won't say that I can promise every single year, it's the goal that we've set out there. And so growing up in a small town in a restaurant that failed because of a lot of factors, but ag community and, some different federal programs, land coming out of production, people leaving, watching our restaurants go away, watching our implement dealerships go away, watching our car dealerships go away, watching our schools consolidate, our grocery stores close. In my tenure, I hope that I can help to be a moving force in changing that trend and getting it to go the opposite way again. Getting people to come back to rural America and invest in our beautiful, wonderful towns. You cannot tell me there is not opportunity in rural America. My family is the definition of taking opportunities in rural America and making businesses out of those. And they are everywhere. But people don't know that they're there, or they're not aware that they can do it. And so in my tenure, I want to just exploit every last opportunity that Montana rural communities have and get people to come back to rural Montana, invest in rural Montana. It's the best place in the world.
Love that.
Yes.
That's, I think, a great way to kind of end our
Yes.
interview. So, well, we look forward to working with you and helping you achieve that goal and work towards revitalizing rural America, because we absolutely agree with that and think there are a lot of opportunities.
Well, the opportunities exist because of agricultural groups, grower groups like this. You are the heart, you are the soul, and the voice of those producers. And so thank you guys for all the work that you've done throughout the years, and all of the groups out there that continue to do that work. And so keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again, Jill Streit, for joining us. I should quit saying new. The director of the
Yeah, it's been
Montana
6
Department of
months.
Agriculture. She's been in the role 6 months. And thank you to our listeners for joining us. Just as a reminder, if you do subscribe to our podcast, make sure that you like and comment. And for those of you who follow us on social media, make sure that you're following us on Facebook and Instagram, and our latest episodes will be posted there. So thanks again, and we will talk to you at our next episode.
See you next week.